Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gridiron 2025. Ron Poniewasz, joined by Mr. Larry Kelly, member of the Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly and George law firm, an assistant baseball coach for Penn State Shenango, former varsity baseball coach for Shenango, current assistant coach under Ralph Blundo at Newcastle High School. Don't forget about Holy Redeemer as well, and anywhere else that he's coached at.
That's right, baby. The Holy Redeemer Blazers never had a better time coaching. Never.
Okay, good to be back in the saddle again. We got our normal allotment of stuff to tell you about. We had a kid have a really special performance against an undefeated team. Larry will talk to you about the Newcastle High football team. They're really rolling right now. And then we will talk in more in depth on a couple other squads, and then we'll close it up with our Week 8 schedule. But first up, Athlete of the Week, and it's Wilmington's Freddie Zehetner, a senior, 6'2", 165-pound wide receiver defensive back. He had 8 carries last week and 75 yards rushing and a touchdown on a 37-yard run. Caught 1 pass for 47 yards. Remember, they don't throw the ball a whole hell of a lot at Wilmington. And they defeated previously undefeated Reynolds 42-0.
Listen, 8 carries for 75 yards is impressive. It's almost 10 yards a carry, if my math is correct. But you know, Wilmington does that almost each and every week. You know, they run the ball and they run it like a machine. Maybe more impressive is the young man caught a pass for 47 yards. As you said, that doesn't happen very often in the Wilmington offense. So my guess is that was probably a short pass and a long run, but I didn't see it. Maybe Coach Fillion can weigh in and let us know if indeed that was the case. But, you know, a good bounce back for Wilmington after the Farrell game last week, and you know, 42-0. They basically showed Reynolds who the boss was.
Right, and they have some injuries at Wilmington. Chase Mitchell-Tree did not play in that game. There was a couple other players, I believe. Wesley Vasco hasn't played for a few weeks, but Freddie Zehetner was stepping in, one of the guys picking up the load at running back, and he carried the mail, you know, for those 75 yards. Did what they had to do to take control of that game.
10 yards a carry. That's pretty impressive stuff. And again, you know, so when you add up his rushing and you add up his pass receiving, it's almost 125 yards. It's a pretty big day in a big game. You know, I always said, you know, it's one thing to rack up these statistics against a team that struggles mightily, but yet it's another to do it against an undefeated team like Reynolds, and that's who Wilmington was facing last week. And to pick up for Chase Mitchell-Tree. Chase Mitchell-Tree is day in and day out the bell cow for Wilmington High School. So they needed somebody to step up. Freddie Zehetner put his big boy pants on, had a big game for the Greyhounds.
All right, the Greyhounds moved to 1-1 in District 10, Region 1, 1A, 2A action, and 5-2 overall. So that's a big win for the Greyhounds. We'll talk a little bit more about the Greyhounds in our segment where we talk about other programs. But coming up next, Larry will tell you about the Newcastle High football program and where they stand going into Friday, October 10th action. We'll do that next here on Gridiron.
Wilmington High's Freddie Zehetner. Zehetner had quite a game, over 100 offensive yards and a 42-0 win, District 10 win over Reynolds. Knocked them off. Talk about that win first off and shutting them out.
Yeah, they came in 6-0. They had a lot of momentum, and we just knew we had to shut them down, and we just did our thing.
5 different players all scored a touchdown at different, you know, and you got to punch in that first one. Talk about that and getting that first thing rolling.
It was awesome. First play of the game. I mean, all the blocks lined up, and I was just gone.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other. Be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
We're back with you here on Gridiron. Larry's going to talk to you about the Red Hurricane and the Red Hurricane Minute for Newcastle football. Newcastle comes in this week 2-0 in the Parkway, 6-1 overall. Larry, the floor is yours.
Freddie Mazzacca said Newcastle football is back, and they are back. He said this team was looking for respect. Well, Ronnie, I think they got it. The 4A power rankings came out this week, and Newcastle, the Red Hurricane, was number one. When was the last time Newcastle held the number one ranking in football? I'd say maybe the Reagan administration was the last time this team held the number one ranking in football. I want you to do some research for me before next week's show and find out. They beat Aliquippa, which they hadn't done since the Reagan administration, and then they took care of Montour, which is a great football team year in and year out. And they put up 34 points. Once again, this Marino Graham was the star of the show. Talking to Coach Mangino today, Penn State wants him to go up there and visit next week. So that tells you what kind of player he was. He scored 4 touchdowns himself and threw for another. The touchdown that kind of sealed the game, I wasn't there, but I heard it on the radio, was a 75-yard jaunt early in the third quarter. He took it to the house. Kai Cox, again, another big interception. Chase Lemon, another touchdown pass. Another 2 big interceptions from 2 of my basketball guys last week. Mason Cook, Travis Wetzel, who I haven't talked a lot about. You talk about a tough guy, Travis Wetzel. You look up toughness in a dictionary, buddy. You'll see his name. So the boys are just playing great football. And even though they're putting up a lot of points, Matt Mangino described their offense like running a fast break in basketball. And it just they can strike from anywhere on the field. They've done it, but defensively, they dominated this game. Line of scrimmage, we talk about it every week. 226 rushing yards for Newcastle and 64 for Montour. And Montour is a team that year in and year out controls the line of scrimmage. So another big win for the Red Hurricane. Number one in 4A, well-deserved. And one other thing that really we're starting to get better at, they had 7 penalties, but only for 35 yards, which tells me, again, pre-snap maybe, lining up off sides, but none of those big penalties that kill drives. Marino Graham, I don't know how many yards he rushed for. It wasn't in the article that DJ wrote, but I'm guessing it was well over 100 since he had a 75-yard touchdown run, but then he threw for 162 yards. So, Newcastle had total yards of 331. My guess is this kid probably accounted for about almost 300 of them. So they're back. They're real. They're respected. Go. Newcastle Red Hurricane. Got another tough one this Friday. West A. Last year we got swept. We got beat. The difference in the scores last year might have been 100 points. This year, it looks like we're going to run the table. So, it's just, we're back. The Hurricane is back.
Were you coherent back in the early 2000s with Newcastle football?
Well, yeah. I was around. I was in law school in the early 80s, and I know they had some good teams then. I was back in 98 when they won the WPIAL championship, when my dear friend Gary Schooley was the head coach. That's my guess. The last time we were number one in anybody's power ranking, 98. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you about 98 probably, but one of my early years at the Newcastle News, and I started September 3rd of 2001. I think it was maybe 2003 or something like that. I'd have to check the year, but it was early on in my time here. Newcastle either went undefeated in the regular season or lost one game, and then they got upset in the first round of the playoffs by Moon. I think it was at Taggart Stadium. They probably were ranked number one that year. They had
Well, it's 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So I can't remember what I had for my dinner 25 minutes ago. So it's been a long time. That's the point we're trying to make here. But, again, Coach Mangino gives me a little inside information. He talks about how tough these guys are. And again, I mentioned all the guys. Chase Lemon is as tough a dude as you'll ever find in your life. DJ Gordon is just knocking people in the next week. Quaylen Davis, another basketball player. They're dominating the line of scrimmage. They're just every facet of the game, with the exception of kicking extra points. We still can't do that. Man, we got to figure this out, Ronnie. It's in a close game, man. It's going to come down to that. You can't leave points on the board. We went for 2. It looks like every time, and I think we converted once. So, got to do a little better than that.
I don't know if you remember the name, but Mohawk used to have a coach by the name of Jason Long, and there for a time, I don't know if he did it every year, but there was a stretch where it seemed like they just said the heck with extra points, and they went for 2. And I asked him about it the one time, and he said, "Hey, if you go 2 for 4 on extra points or 2-point conversions, it's just like going 4 for 4 on PATs." So it kind of makes you wonder: is Newcastle number 1? Are they going to maybe adopt that strategy, or B, do they not adopt that strategy because they don't want to tip their hand in case they actually do need to go for 2 in a high leverage type spot, key spot in the game? You just kind of wonder.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking here at the box score. It appears that they may have converted 2 of these 2-point conversions, but I don't think the conversion rate on 2-point conversion is 50%, Ronnie. I don't. I'd be surprised if it is.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, look, you got to figure it out. And if you can't kick it, you better have some imagination on these 2-point conversions, because it's so crowded down there in the end zone. It's pretty tough, and I don't need to tell Coach Mangino how to run it, or Coach Mangino or Coach Mazzucca how to run their team. But if I am going to run a 2-point conversion, I need the ball in the hands of Marino Graham. I need him running some kind of an option. Maybe a jump ball to Kai Cox in the end zone. You got to figure it out, though. Again, a close game, you just got to be able to figure it out.
They've been doing a really good job of figuring it out to this point, and we'll look forward to seeing more big things from Newcastle the rest of the season. I really believe that they clinched a playoff spot with their win against Aliquippa. It's unofficial to me that with that win over Montour last week, that really locked it up. Again, it's still unofficial, but it's about as in the books as it can be without it being official.
Oh, yeah. They're thinking about championship now. They're not just thinking about making the playoffs. And again, they're playing really well. They got some tough kids on the team. I think one of those 2-point conversions might have gone to Damian Harrison, who I know in basketball can jump out of the gym. So, a jump ball to him over there, I think he's going to win that contest most times. He's got pretty good hands. So, again, it's getting better every week, Ronnie. They held Montour, offensively to 7 points. They did run a kickoff back for a touchdown, but they held them to 7 points, and maybe it could have been a shutout. Apparently, Kai Cox, who's a great defensive back, kind of misjudged the pass that went for a touchdown that it looked like he was going to intercept, and that's what Coach Mangino told me on the film. So this team is rolling, buddy. And, Kai Cox, he got invited to go to Ohio State last week. So there's some big-time talent on this team, and it's going to be fun to watch going down the stretch.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.